Chief. Pretty striking statement from Trump accusing President Biden of, quote, doing every possible thing to make the transition difficult, and saying this on January 6th of all days, because Biden and the Biden administration have been doing everything possible to make this as smooth as possible, inviting Trump to the White House, making it clear that he will be attending the inauguration and all of that.
Yes, in his Washington Post op-ed today, the president said he intends to continue the tradition of inviting the president on the morning of the inauguration of the White House, in addition to the visit that they had in the immediate aftermath of the election. Those kinds of traditions for the peaceful transfer of power are clearly important for President Biden in his mind to reset that, because that was absent from what Donald Trump obviously refused to offer Joe Biden 4 years ago. But I just want to say, this comment that he was making, I don't think Donald Trump was trying to equate his own January 6th behavior or anything related to the 6th of January. This was on Hugh Hewitt this morning in context of this conversation about Biden's actions, about banning offshore drilling and putting a sort of environmental legacy piece in place that is trying to make it more difficult for the Trump team to instantly overturn it, and that perhaps it will need to go through legislative action. And I think that was the context of the point of that Donald Trump was making, although I will say, my ears perked up when I heard that, because what I heard from that moment was a former president who 2 weeks from right now will be 6 hours into his second presidency, laying the groundwork to point fingers and blame Joe Biden for anything that is not going the way that he wants it, or scoring big victories right away out of the gate. Guarantee you're going to hear a lot of blame about Joe Biden.
Let me get Brian Warner to react. You served in the Trump White House. You know what's going on. What's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is that we have seen some disruption. I mean, it wasn't just the oil drilling. It was trying to sell off pieces of the border wall for scraps. So there have been some things behind the scenes where they're trying to cement policies and make it more difficult for President Trump. That's very frustrating for him. So I certainly understand where he's coming from. As for January 6th today, it was a decisive victory. It was a very clean and clear process that is refreshing, that is positive for the country. I think that everyone was able to get through this unscathed and without incident. That is a great day for America.
An enormous contrast to what the Trump White House did 4 years ago.
Well, 4 years ago, the president did say peacefully and patriotically go to the Capitol. Obviously, we saw what unfolded. The American people and the voters also saw the lawfare that came before and after that. They saw the weaponization of the federal government against political opponents, and they voted to stop that. But they voted to secure the border.
They didn't vote for what happened on January 6th. They didn't vote for what happened on January 6th. And I think what you've seen today is really, yes, the peaceful transfer of power. It is in marked contrast to what happened on January 6th. And Donald Trump, the problem is that part of what happened on January 6th is the story that Donald Trump wants to tell about himself, that he didn't lose and that these people were actually acting in a just cause, and that's why he wants to pardon them. But that is not the real story. And he's made it part of loyalty tests. You have to answer whether or not you believe that he won the last election. In order to work for him in this current administration that is coming. So the problem here is that we are still in the era of January 6th 4 years ago. That hasn't changed.
Right, Karen.
In the bigger picture, though, with what you're saying, this is why the American people deserve a full accounting of history. And it's why Merrick Garland should release the final report that he gets from Jack Smith. Because we, the people, we pay for it with our tax dollars. We deserve to know, for the record of history, what exactly happened. You heard a new Republican senator even say, we don't really know all the facts about what happened. We deserve to know the facts, particularly because what we're seeing is akin to what we're seeing conservative MAGA folks do all over the country. They're trying to rewrite history and gaslight us that what we saw with our own eyes didn't happen. And it did happen. And we need to know, as we try, I appreciate that Joe Biden is trying to say to people, let's lay down a marker around what the norms really are, what it should look like. But at the same time, there has to be accountability. There has to be some transparency here so that people really know what
Unfortunately, I don't think there will be. I mean, I think, what actually, and I think you're right here, what voters said is that actually this didn't matter to them and that they would and that they would vote for Donald Trump. That is at least the lesson that Donald Trump has taken
That's
from
the
this.
lesson that Donald Trump wants to take. But let's be very clear: an election is not the same thing as a jury verdict, where the same group of people heard all of the same evidence and then rendered a verdict. That's
The
not the same.
political verdict takes into account the fact that, look, I was in the White House where BLM rioters were trying to get in. I had to have the Secret Service help me get home safely. Those people were not treated as harshly as some of them.
And
Others
absolutely
were not.
different things.
But
Yeah.
well,
So
there,
one
but
group
it
of
was
people. Wait,
shown
let's
that
be
there was
clear.
a two-tiered
One
system
group.
of justice.
Hold
that
on. One
people
group
did
of
vote on.
people. One group of people were protesting for racial justice, and one group of people were trying to
And burning down police stations
and we're
and
trying
burning
to
down
over-
courthouses
and we're trying to
and murder police officers.
overturn a legitimate election. Those are two very different things, and we did see people prosecuted for violent actions when they took them. But a group of people coming onto the steps of the Capitol, trying to interrupt the peaceful transfer of power. Let us be clear, it's not the
The
same.
fact that this debate and conversation is still happening to me shows that it's not just trying to gaslight or whitewash or erase history what everyone saw before their eyes 4 years ago, because we did all see it. It's actually the success of that. It's not it's not just that he's trying, but that Donald Trump has successfully convinced a huge swath of America that they didn't see what they saw on January 6th. And when it was litigated politically, and this is where the election comes into play, as you noted, this was not the thing that voters decided this past election on. They weren't affirming Donald Trump's behavior on January 6th in any way whatsoever.
No.
But they were saying that was not how they were going to decide the results of this most recent.
I want to just get David to react to what Senator Lindsey Graham is warning about involving Trump. He's warning that Trump should not even consider pardoning some of those January 6th rioters. Listen and watch Lindsey Graham.
I believe that the is power exercise, but people who beat up police officers are put them in a different category than others.
This comes, I don't know if you heard that, but he said, let me just read, the people who beat up police officers, I put them in a different category than others. We're talking about pardon coming from the new president. That comes as the Wall Street Journal editorial board, as you probably saw, is cautioning Trump against these pardons as well. How do you think he navigates this?
Well, there were obviously some prisoners who were treated, I think, disproportionately to what similarly situated people were. That is a proper way for the president to use the pardon power or the commutation power, and people saw something that was unjust. So that needs to be corrected. I think there are a few Americans who would disagree if you showed up and beat up police officers that there shouldn't be consequences. But the overzealous reaction, the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. saw murder rates spike. They saw carjacking spike. They were devoted so many resources to, in some cases, people who were basically trespassers or who were confused or invited in. And so I think there was a misallocation of resources here that really did catch people's attention, and people thought it was unjust. So the president will have some very profound decisions to make, and we'll see what those are. Those are for him to make, obviously not the peanut gallery, but it'll be an important day.
He says he's going to make some of those decisions immediately on day one, January 20th. So we shall see. Everyone, thank you very, very much. We'll be joined, by the way, by the chairman.